Greetings, this is Wolf from Armoury-Terrain, and today I'm going to talk to you about super light clay from Claytastic. Now, this is not a sponsored video. I bought this product with no expectations from the company, from what I may or may not say about it, and I picked up a really good deal at the Royal Queensland exhibition, commonly known here as the Ekka. So I got this really great book of projects. I then got the basic starter refill pack, which is filled to the brim with multicolored clay, which is all air dry, by the way, none of this putting in the oven, and some sculpting tools. I also received the starter box of 12 pieces, another replacement box of 24 pieces, and a decent sized tub. Now, I got all of this for a really good price because there's about $150 worth of clay here. Now, to give you some sort of idea about the super light clay, I have here some Magic Sculpting. It's lots of years old and it's probably no good anymore, but it comes in two little jars like this. Now, and that's all that's in the container. This weighs about the same as this. The clay is a very, very light polymer, and when it dries, it's almost like a sponge rubber. So I'm going to sit down and make a whole bunch of animal teeth and show you how I do that, and then hopefully when they're air dry, I'll show you how cool they look. So all the literature with this Claytastic product says that it's completely non-toxic and it has almost no smell, and the texture, if anything, feels a bit like chewing gum, or maybe the Hubba Bubba bubble gum, but a little bit less sticky. So I'm going to make a giant canine tooth here now for a necklace. So let's pull a bit out and close the lid back up so it doesn't get too much air in it. And then to shape the tooth, I'm just going to roll it backwards and forwards, which must be fascinating viewing. And then at the top, I'm going to spread it out a little bit so it looks more like the cap of a tooth, you know, where it's come out of the jaw. And then I'm going to point the end of it and curve it. Now, if you put a little bit of water on your fingers, now all I'm using tool wise here is a glass of water and a metal skewer. With a little bit of water you can smooth out fingerprints and lines, but they're not too important to me. So all I really have to do is wet my skewer and push it through the tooth. So when it's dry, when it pushes through, it leaves a little bit of gunk on the other side, but that's not too bad. I can deal with that. Yeah, push it through till you get a clean hole, and that will allow me to thread a cord through there and turn this into a necklace piece. Of course, if it's on camera, it's better, right? So this has got lots of grooves and texture in it because of the way my fingers are working it, and I've made it too sharp there, so I'll just fold the top in, push it together, a little bit of water, smooth it out, although not too much water because otherwise it seems to go very, very soggy. And then I'm just sitting on a little bit of baking paper to air dry. Don't know if it's necessary, but I figure not too much sticks to baking paper, so I should be able to remove it fairly easily. So there it is, so it can be seen. Nice big incisor tooth from a dire wolf or a saber-toothed tiger or similar. Now, not all teeth are going to be that big, so I might make a couple of smaller ones. using exactly the same process, which is pulling some clay out of the pot and rolling it into a ball so all the stringy bits are together. Once I've done that, I think I'll separate this, so I'll get two pieces. Yes, two pieces. As you can see, it acts kind of like chewing gum or bubble gum when you pull it apart. So with these ones, I'm going to make some more back jaw teeth, but still big and scary, because why would you use dodgy teeth in a necklace when you've got all the skeletal remains to choose from? So that looks like a fairly decent sized tooth. I know I wouldn't want to be bitten by it. I've been bitten by Rottweilers and similar, and they're plenty big enough to be bitten by. And sadly, it wasn't the dog's fault, it was the owner's fault, because the dog had been poorly trained and put in a high stress situation. Poor little doggy. Anyway, and now I have a nice triangular shaped tooth with a little bit of texture at the top here that looks like that's where it went into the jawbone. And I'll put it down to dry as well. So as you can see, this process is really quite fast, and I'm going to make a whole bunch of teeth, which I'm sure you don't want to sit here and watch. So I'll keep going with these and get back to you tomorrow when they're dried. Well, it has been roughly 40 hours since I last played with this clay, and I think it's come up fairly well. One thing I didn't show though with the fresh clay was when it's wet, it bounces. Let's check that out, hey? You know? It shows you how light this stuff is. Okay, so all of the teeth in front of you that you can see took roughly 1/5 of this container. So I've used not a whole lot of it at all. On the other hand, I made 3 cookies as well. Nice light cookies. And these cookies, just 3 of them, took an entire one of these to make, giving you some sort of idea about how much the foam, you know, how much you get. So anyway, this stuff is dry, and even the thin teeth, if I find my camera, check this out, making sure I'm in focus, you can bend these teeth all the way like that and they spring back. More than anything, it feels like a mold injected rubber, like you'd get on, say, a cheap LARP sword, and it weighs nothing. So I quite like it. So what do I think about the Claytastic very light clay? Well, I think it's brilliant for making things like, you know, this tooth necklace where there's not a whole lot of detail, or for making stuff for puppets like teeth and eyes and horns, and even for cosplay where you need to make a horn but you can't have it too heavy. What this stuff is not good for is anything else that you traditionally use clay for. It's very hard to sculpt when it's wet. Like, it doesn't have enough body to be able to sculpt into it well. And once it's dry, forget about sanding it or hitting it with the Dremel or anything else. It's not going to happen. It forms a skin, and on the inside, I'm pretty sure even after 40 hours it's somewhat damp in there. But as I said, for what I'm using it for, it's absolutely great. If I wanted to make something I was going to make a mold of, I'd use Super Sculpting. The same as if I was making something I needed to put a lot of detail into. But for things like this, and for making, you know, biscuits or little monsters or animals or anything like that, especially for kids with little fingers, this stuff is absolutely great. You can make it, you don't have to bake it, and it bounces if you drop it. It doesn't crack everywhere, so no tears when, you know, they get their new favorite sculpture and they drop it. Doesn't break. So anyway, this is Wolf from Armoury-Terrain having a bit of a review on the Claytastic Superlight Clay, link to the site below, and saying go out and make something.